The silence weapons hit the horizon dawn like nothing the crew had ever experienced. Reality twisted and bent around them as parts of the ship began to fade in and out of existence. Captain Jake Morrison felt his body becoming less solid, as if he was slowly dissolving into empty space. Through the chaos, he could hear his crew calling out to each other. Some voices became faint and distant while others remained clear. The ship's systems flickered between working and not working, existing and not existing. Status report, Jake managed to call out, though his own voice sounded strange and echoing. Navigator Amy Thompson responded from her station, though she appeared to be flickering like a broken hologram. Captain, I'm reading massive dimensional fluctuations throughout the ship. We're existing in multiple realities at the same time. Chief Science Officer Ben Carter, who was now partially transparent, worked at his instruments with hands that sometimes passed right through the controls. The silence weapons have shifted us into the same dimensional state as the New Frontiers crew. We're trapped between realities. Computer specialist Kevin Turner found that his equipment was responding differently now. Captain, the ship's computers are accessing data that wasn't there before. I can see information from parallel dimensions, including complete technical specifications for the relay network. Dr. Amanda Foster scanned the crew with her medical equipment and made an amazing discovery. Captain, we're not dying. The dimensional shift is keeping us alive in a state between existence and non-existence. We can survive indefinitely like this. Security Chief Nicole Brooks tested her movement and found she could walk through solid walls when she concentrated. Sir, we have abilities now that we didn't have before. We can interact with technology that exists in multiple dimensions. Jake looked around the bridge and saw his crew in various states of dimensional flux. Some were solid most of the time, others flickered constantly, but they were all still there. The silence ships. What's happening to them? Sensor operator Tony Garcia, whose form was barely visible but whose voice remained clear, checked his instruments. They're maintaining their position around us, Captain. I think they're waiting to see if we'll fade away completely like other crews have. Jake realized this was their chance. Kevin, can you access the relay network from here? Kevin worked at his station, his hands passing through some controls but connecting with others that existed in parallel dimensions. Yes, sir. I'm connecting to relay stations across the galaxy. The dimensional state we're in now allows us to interface with their technology directly. Pilot Susan Clark found she could operate controls that weren't visible in normal space. Captain, I'm reading power systems throughout the galaxy that I couldn't detect before. The relay network is massive, much bigger than Dr. Collins realized. Amy Thompson discovered she could navigate through space that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Sir, I can see pathways between star systems that use dimensional space. The relay network isn't just communication devices, it's a transportation system. Jake felt a surge of hope. Can we activate the entire network at once? Kevin's fingers moved over controls that flickered between existing and not existing. I'm connecting to the central command station now. It's located in a star system that exists purely in dimensional space. The builders of the network hid it from the silence. Ben Carter made scans of the surrounding space and discovered something incredible. Captain, there are other ships out there. Vessels from dozens of different species, all trapped in dimensional flux like we are. The silence have been collecting them for millions of years. Dr. Foster extended her medical scans beyond the horizon dawn. I'm reading thousands of life forms in dimensional space. Entire crews from civilizations across the galaxy, all waiting for someone to free them. Jake understood what this meant. They're all alive, trapped between realities. If we can activate the relay network, we might be able to free all of them. Nicole tested her new abilities and found she could communicate directly with the trapped crews of other ships. Captain, I'm making contact with survivors from dozens of species. They've been waiting for someone who could operate the relay network's central controls. Kevin worked frantically at the dimensional controls. I'm accessing the central command station now. The network has been waiting for a signal to activate all stations simultaneously, but it requires consciousness from multiple dimensions to operate. We have that, Jake said, looking at his crew who existed in both normal and dimensional space. Amy, can you plot a course through dimensional space to reach other relay stations? Amy worked with navigation systems that spanned multiple realities. Yes, sir. I can see the entire network now. There are relay stations in over 1,000 star systems, all connected through dimensional space. Susan discovered she could pilot the ship through dimensional pathways. Captain, we can travel instantly between any relay stations in the network. The silence can't follow us through dimensional space. Jake made his decision. Kevin, begin the activation sequence. Amy, plot courses to every relay station in the network. We're going to free every trapped civilization and unite them against the silence. As Kevin initiated the activation sequence, the relay network began to come online across the galaxy. Lights that had been dark for millions of years began to glow with power that spanned dimensions. Tony Garcia's sensors detected something amazing. Captain, ships are appearing throughout the galaxy. The crews that were trapped in dimensional flux are being freed as the network activates. Ben Carter monitored the energy patterns as the network powered up. The dimensional barriers are forming, sir. When fully activated, the network will create a barrier that the silence cannot cross. Dr. Foster watched as the crew members of other ships began to solidify as the network freed them from dimensional flux. Captain, we're not just activating a weapon, we're rescuing entire civilizations. Nicole communicated with the freed crews and received responses from across the galaxy. Sir, we're getting messages from hundreds of species. They're all asking the same question: how do we fight back? Jake activated the ship's communications array, which now broadcast across multiple dimensions simultaneously. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Horizon Dawn. To all species receiving this transmission, humanity has activated the ancient relay network. The time has come to stand together against the silence. Responses flooded in from across the galaxy as civilizations that had been trapped for millions of years found their voices again. Species that had given up hope discovered they were no longer alone in their fight. Kevin completed the network activation sequence. Captain, all relay stations are online. The dimensional barrier is forming around the galaxy's outer rim. Amy tracked the movements of silence ships throughout space. Sir, the silence fleets are being pushed back by the dimensional barriers. They can't penetrate the network's defenses. Susan piloted the Horizon Dawn through dimensional space to the network's central command station. Captain, we've reached the control center. It's a massive structure built by all the civilizations that contributed to the network. As they approached the ancient station, Jake could see that it was indeed massive, built from materials and technologies from hundreds of different species. It was a monument to cooperation across the galaxy. Tony Garcia detected energy signatures from thousands of ships converging on their location. Captain, we're being joined by vessels from every species the network freed. It's the largest fleet in galactic history. Jake stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the assembled fleet of freed civilizations. Open a channel to all ships. When the channel opened, Jake's voice carried to every vessel in the fleet. For millions of years, the silence have hunted us one by one, erasing civilizations from existence. But today that ends. Today we stand together. The response was immediate. Thousands of voices from hundreds of species replied in unison, each speaking in their own language but all saying the same thing. We stand together. Ben Carter monitored the dimensional barriers and confirmed they were holding. Captain, the silence fleets have been completely contained outside the galactic rim. They cannot enter our space as long as the network remains active. Nicole received communications from the freed civilizations. Sir, the other species are asking what comes next. They want to know how we can work together to rebuild what the silence destroyed. Jake looked at his crew, who had sacrificed their normal existence to save the galaxy. We build something new, a galactic civilization based on cooperation instead of fear. The silence taught us what isolation leads to. Now we show the galaxy what unity can accomplish. Kevin accessed the network's historical records and found something wonderful. Captain, the network contains the preserved knowledge of every civilization that helped build it. Art, science, philosophy, technology from thousands of species. None of it was truly lost. Dr. Foster scanned the crew and made a remarkable discovery. Captain, our dimensional state is stabilizing. We can choose to exist in normal space or dimensional space as needed. We're evolving. Amy plotted courses back toward Earth through the dimensional pathways. Sir, we can return to Earth instantly through the network. The boarding party had just returned to the Horizon Dawn when sensor operator Tony Garcia suddenly looked up from his station with alarm on his face. Captain, I'm detecting massive gravitational distortions approaching our position. Multiple contacts moving in formation. Captain Jake Morrison felt his blood turn cold. How far out?
6 hours at their current speed, sir.
But Captain, These ships aren't following normal physics. They're moving through space in ways that should be impossible. Chief Science Officer Ben Carter ran detailed scans on the approaching contacts. The gravitational readings are off the charts. Whatever those ships are made of, they're bending space around them just by existing. Security Chief Nicole Brooks had just finished briefing Jake on what they found aboard the New Frontier. Captain, based on Dr. Collins's data, those have to be silence ships. They must have detected our presence here. Jake turned to his pilot. Susan, get us out of here. Maximum speed, any direction that takes us away from those contacts. Pilot Susan Clark's hands flew over her controls. Engine spinning up now, sir. Where do you want me to take us? Anywhere but here. We need time to study Dr. Collins's data before we face the silence. Computer specialist Kevin Turner was still analyzing the files they had downloaded from the New Frontier. Captain, this data is incredible. Dr. Collins documented everything about the silence weapons and technology. According to his research, their ships exist partially in our dimension and partially in parallel space. The Horizon Dawn's engines came online, and Susan began accelerating away from the New Frontier. But as they moved, Tony Garcia's sensors picked up something disturbing. Captain, the silence ships are changing course to follow us, and they're gaining speed. Navigator Amy Thompson calculated their escape routes. Sir, even at maximum speed, we can't outrun them. They'll catch us in less than 4 hours. Jake stared at the sensor readings showing the approaching alien ships. What about that black hole system we passed on the way here? Could we use its gravity well to gain speed? Susan checked her navigation charts. It's risky, Captain. If we get too close, the gravitational forces will tear us apart. Better than letting the silence catch us, Jake replied. Set course for the black hole. We'll use a slingshot maneuver to escape. As the Horizon Dawn changed course toward the nearby black hole system, Kevin continued studying Dr. Collins's research files. Captain, I'm finding some very disturbing information here. The silence don't just destroy ships or kill people. They systematically erase entire civilizations from history. Chief Engineer Ryan Hayes monitored the ship's engines as they pushed toward maximum speed. How is that even possible? According to Dr. Collins, they use dimensional weapons that remove matter from our reality completely. Once something is erased by silence technology, it's like it never existed at all. Medical Officer Dr. Amanda Foster was studying the biological data from the New Frontier. The crew members we found trapped in the ship's hull were caught in the process of being erased. Their bodies exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Tony Garcia's voice cut through their discussion. Captain, the silence ships are still gaining on us. They'll be in weapons range in 2 hours. Jake made a decision. Susan, take us closer to the black hole. Use every bit of gravitational assistance you can get. Susan's hands moved carefully over her controls as she guided the ship toward the massive gravitational anomaly. Approaching the event horizon now, sir. The gravitational forces are incredible. The Horizon Dawn shook as it entered the outer edges of the black hole's influence. The ship's structure groaned under the stress, but Susan managed to keep them on course. Slingshot maneuver in 30 seconds, Susan announced. Everyone hold on. The ship whipped around the black hole at tremendous speed, using the massive object's gravity to accelerate beyond what their engines could achieve alone. For a few terrifying moments, everyone felt like they might be pulled apart by the gravitational forces. Slingshot complete, Susan reported. We're clear of the black hole and moving at maximum velocity. Tony checked his sensors. The silent ships are following us around the black hole, but we've gained some distance on them. Kevin looked up from the New Frontier's data files with excitement. Captain, I found something important. Dr. Collins discovered that the silent ships have a weakness. Their dimensional technology makes them vulnerable to certain energy frequencies. What kind of frequencies? Jake asked. The same frequencies used by the ancient relay network. If we could generate a signal on those frequencies, it might disrupt their ships. Ben Carter ran calculations on his science station. I can modify our communications array to broadcast on those frequencies. But it would take time, and we'd need to get close to the silent ships for it to be effective. Dr. Foster continued studying the medical data from the New Frontier. Captain, there's something else. The crew members who were partially erased by silence weapons. They developed a resistance to the dimensional effects. The longer they were exposed, the more they could exist in both dimensions. What does that mean for us? Nicole asked. If we're hit by silence weapons but survive the initial exposure, we might be able to operate technology that exists in both dimensions simultaneously. Tony Garcia's voice interrupted them again. Captain, the silence ships are changing their approach pattern. They're spreading out to surround us. Jake looked at the tactical display showing the alien ships moving into position. How long before they're in weapons range? At their current speed, about 40 minutes. Kevin worked frantically with the data from Dr. Collins's research. Captain, I found the technical specifications for the relay network weapons. If we could activate even one of the relay stations, it might create enough dimensional interference to escape. Amy Thompson checked her star charts. The nearest relay station is in the Vega system, about 3 light-years from here. Too far, Jake said. We need another option. Susan suddenly had an idea. Captain, what if we don't run from the silence ships? What if we let them catch us? Everyone on the bridge stared at her. Explain, Jake said. According to Dr. Collins's data, the silence weapons work by shifting matter into parallel dimensions. If we let them hit us with those weapons, some of our crew might end up in the same dimensional state as the New Frontiers crew. Dr. Foster understood immediately, and people in that dimensional state can operate technology that exists in multiple realities. Ben Carter nodded. Including the relay network stations. Jake felt a chill as he realized what they were suggesting. You're talking about deliberately exposing ourselves to weapons that could erase us from existence. It's our only chance, Nicole said. If the silence are heading toward Earth, someone has to stop them. And the only way to do that is to activate the entire relay network simultaneously. Tony Garcia's sensors showed the silence ships getting closer. Captain, they'll be in weapons range in 15 minutes. Jake looked around at his crew and saw determination in their faces. These people were willing to risk everything to save humanity. All right, he said finally. We're going to try something that's either brilliant or completely insane. Susan, stop our forward momentum. Let the silence ships catch up to us. Sir? Susan asked, not sure she had heard correctly. You heard me. We're going to let them hit us with their weapons. Ben, be ready to monitor the dimensional effects. Kevin, prepare to download everything you can about the relay network to our ship's emergency systems. As the Horizon Dawn slowed to a stop, the silence ships approached from all directions. Through the main screen, the crew could see the alien vessels for the first time. They were geometric shapes that seemed to hurt the eyes to look at directly, moving in patterns that defied understanding. Weapons range in 5 minutes, Tony reported. Jake activated the ship's internal communications. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to engage an enemy unlike anything humanity has ever faced. Some of us may not survive what's about to happen, but if we succeed, we might save Earth and every other world in the galaxy. The silent ships moved into position around the Horizon Dawn, their strange weapons beginning to charge with energy that made space itself ripple and bend. Here they come, Nicole said quietly. The first silence weapon fired, and reality itself began to break apart around them. Captain Jake Morrison stared at the twisted remains of the New Frontier and made a decision that could save or doom humanity. We're going aboard that ship. We need Dr. Collins's research data, and we need it now. Security Chief Nicole Brooks stood up from her station. Sir, that ship is barely holding together. The energy readings are completely unstable. I know the risks, Jake replied. But if the silence are really heading toward Earth, we need to understand how to fight them. That information is locked inside the New Frontier. Chief Science Officer Ben Carter worked at his station, analyzing the energy patterns surrounding the damaged colony ship. Captain, I'm reading some very strange dimensional fluctuations. Parts of that ship are existing in multiple realities at the same time. Jake turned to his communications officer. Lisa, try to establish contact with the New Frontier's computer systems. See if any of their automated systems are still functioning. Lisa worked at her controls for several minutes before shaking her head. Nothing, sir. The ship's main computer network appears to be completely offline. Navigator Amy Thompson studied the approach vectors to the New Frontier. Captain, I can get us close enough to dock with their cargo bay. It looks like one of the few sections that's still solid. Jake nodded. Make it happen. Nicole, I want you to lead a boarding party. Take Kevin Turner with you to handle the computer systems and Dr. Amanda Foster in case we find any survivors. Nicole began gathering her equipment. How many people should I take? Keep it small. Just the 4 of you. We don't know what we're dealing with over there, and I don't want to risk more lives than necessary. Computer specialist Kevin Turner looked nervous as he prepared his portable data extraction tools. He was young and had never been on a mission like this before. Captain, what if the ship's computer systems have been damaged by whatever hit them? Then you'll find a way to fix them, Jake replied firmly. The future of humanity might depend on the information stored in those computers. Dr. Amanda Foster gathered her medical equipment and scanning devices. She was the ship's chief medical officer and had seen plenty of dangerous situations, but something about this mission felt different. Captain, if Dr. Collins really survived for 200 years on that ship, there might be other survivors in similar conditions. That's what I'm hoping, Jake said. But be careful. We don't know what the silence weapons did to the people on that ship. The Horizon Dawn moved slowly toward the new frontier, with Amy carefully navigating around the twisted sections of hull that flickered in and out of existence. As they got closer, everyone could see the true extent of the damage. The massive colony ship looked like it had been partially melted and then frozen in an impossible configuration. Docking clamps engaged, Amy reported. We have a seal with their cargo bay. Nicole led her team through the airlock and into the new frontier. The moment they stepped aboard, they knew something was terribly wrong. The corridor walls seemed to shift slightly when they weren't looking directly at them, and the air itself felt thick and strange. This place gives me the creeps, Kevin whispered as they moved through the ship's passages. Dr. Foster scanned the area with her medical sensors. I'm reading trace amounts of human DNA in the air, but no life signs. It's like people were here recently, but now they're not. Nicole led them toward the ship's computer core, following signs and directional markers. Many of the ship's sections were completely dark, while others flickered with emergency lighting that shouldn't have had power. When they reached the computer core, Kevin immediately went to work connecting his equipment to the New Frontiers systems. The main computers are offline, but there are several backup systems still running. Dr. Collins was right about hiding data in the secondary systems. How long will it take to extract everything? Nicole asked. At least 2 hours for a complete download, but I can start pulling the most important files first. Dr. Foster continued scanning the area around them. Nicole, you need to see this. She pointed her scanner toward a nearby wall. I'm reading human tissue embedded in the ship's hull, but it's not dead tissue. It's like it's been suspended in some kind of stasis. Nicole moved closer to examine the wall. In the dim lighting, she could just make out what looked like the outline of a human hand pressed into the metal. Is that person still alive? I don't know, Dr. Foster replied. My scanners can't tell the difference between living and dead when the tissue is in this state. Kevin worked frantically at the computer systems, downloading files as quickly as possible. I'm getting huge amounts of data here. Research files, sensor logs, communications records. Dr. Collins documented everything. What does it say about the silence? Nicole asked. Kevin pulled up some of the files on his portable screen. According to this, the silence aren't from our dimension. They exist in a parallel reality, and only enter our space when they detect certain kinds of signals. Dr. Foster continued scanning the ship's corridors and made another disturbing discovery. Nicole, there are human remains throughout this ship, but they're all in the same strange state. It's like the people were caught in the process of being erased from reality. How many people? Nicole asked. Hundreds, maybe thousands. The entire crew of the New Frontier is still here, but they're stuck between existing and not existing. Kevin found more files in the computer systems. Dr. Collins figured out how the silence weapons work. They don't destroy matter. They shift it into a parallel dimension. The people on this ship aren't dead, they're trapped. Nicole felt a chill run down her spine. Can the process be reversed? Maybe, Kevin replied, reading through more data. Dr. Collins believed that the same technology that created the dimensional shift could be used to reverse it, but it would require using the ancient relay network. Dr. Foster made another scan of the area and gasped. Nicole, I'm reading fresh human activity in the next section. Someone or something is moving around in there. Nicole drew her weapon and signaled for the others to stay back. She moved carefully toward the next corridor and peered around the corner. What she saw made her blood freeze. A figure in a torn New Frontier uniform was walking down the hallway, but he was flickering in and out of existence like a bad hologram. As she watched, the figure became solid for a few seconds, then faded to almost nothing, then became solid again. Dr. Collins, she called out softly. The figure turned toward her voice, and she could see that it was indeed a human face, though it kept fading and reappearing. He tried to speak, but his voice was barely a whisper. Who are you? The figure managed to say during one of his solid phases. I'm Nicole Brooks from the Earthship Horizon Dawn. We received your message. The figure of Dr. Collins flickered more rapidly, becoming more solid for a moment. Earthship? How long? How long have I been here? Over 200 years, Nicole replied gently. Dr. Collins's form stabilized slightly and he walked closer to her. The data? Did you find the data? We're downloading it now. Dr. Collins, what happened to your crew? The silence weapons? They shifted us into dimensional flux. Most of the crew faded away completely, but some of us got stuck between realities. I've been alone for so long, Kevin called out from the computer core. Nicole, I'm getting massive amounts of data about the relay network. Dr. Collins figured out that it wasn't just a communication system. It was designed as a weapon against the silence. Dr. Collins heard this and became more solid, his eyes lighting up with hope. Yes, the network was built by dozens of civilizations working together. They were fighting the silence for millions of years. Why didn't they win? Nicole asked. Because they never had enough time to fully activate the network before the silence found and destroyed them. But if someone could activate all the relay stations at the same time... Kevin's voice echoed from the computer core. Nicole, you need to see this. The data shows the locations of over 1,000 relay stations across the galaxy. If they could all be activated simultaneously, they would create a dimensional barrier that the silence couldn't cross. Dr. Collins flickered again, but managed to stay solid. That's what we were trying to do. We thought we could activate them one by one, but that just made it easier for the silence to track us down. Dr. Foster approached carefully with her medical scanner. Dr. Collins, my readings show that your dimensional state is becoming more unstable. The process that's been keeping you alive is breaking down. I know, Dr. Collins replied sadly. I can feel myself fading. But you have the data now. You can warn Earth. You can stop the silence. Kevin finished downloading the last of the critical files. I've got everything, Nicole. Research data, star charts, technical specifications for the relay network. Nicole helped Dr. Collins walk back toward the computer core. Doctor, is there anything else we need to know? Dr. Collins' form flickered more rapidly now. The silence? They're not evil. They're scared. They've been running from something even worse for millions of years. The relay network. It doesn't just call to other civilizations. It calls to whatever the silence are running from. What are they running from? Nicole asked, but Dr. Collins had faded too much to answer. His form flickered one last time and then disappeared completely, leaving only empty air where he had been standing. The boarding party stood in silence for a moment. The bridge of the Horizon Dawn was completely silent as everyone stared at the ruined New Frontier. The massive colony ship looked like something from a nightmare. Parts of it seemed to exist and not exist at the same time, flickering like a broken hologram. Lisa Martinez worked frantically at her communication station, trying to boost the signal strength. Captain, I'm getting much stronger reception now that we're close. The transmission is definitely coming from inside the ship. Jake Morrison couldn't take his eyes off the twisted metal structure floating before them. Can you isolate the message? I want to hear what they're trying to tell us. Working on it, sir. Lisa's fingers moved quickly across her controls. The static on the bridge speakers began to clear, and a human voice emerged. It was weak and tired, but clearly speaking English. This is Dr. Greg Collins, Chief Medical Officer of the colony ship New Frontier. If anyone receives this message, please know that we tried to warn you. We tried to stop them from finding Earth. Everyone on the bridge leaned forward. The voice continued, sometimes fading in and out, but the words were becoming clearer. I am recording this message in the hope that someone will find it and understand what happened to us. I am the last person alive on this ship. The others? They faded away one by one until only I remained. Ben Carter checked his instruments again. Captain, I'm still not reading any life signs from the ship. This message might be a recording. The voice of Dr. Collins continued from the speakers. We discovered something wonderful and terrible among the stars. An ancient network of communication devices left behind by civilizations that came before us. We thought we could use them to contact other human colonies, to build bridges across the galaxy. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Something about this story was setting off every alarm in his head. We were wrong. When we activated the first relay station, we sent a signal across space that was never meant to be sent. We called to something that should have remained silent forever. Navigator Amy Thompson pulled up star charts on her screen, trying to track the path the New Frontier had taken. According to the ship's planned route, they would have passed through the Andromeda Reach about 200 years ago. That's where they found these relay stations. Dr. Collins's voice grew weaker, but his words became more urgent. They call themselves the Silence, though I don't think that's really a name. It's more like what they do. They silence everything. Every voice, every light, every sign of intelligent life in the universe. Chief Engineer Ryan Hayes checked the power readings from the New Frontier. Captain, that ship shouldn't be able to broadcast anything. Most of its power systems are completely destroyed. The silence came for us 3 days after we activated the relay, Dr. Collins continued. Their ships appeared without warning, moving in ways that hurt to look at. They didn't try to communicate. They didn't demand surrender. They just began destroying everything we had built. Security Chief Nicole Brooks gripped her weapon console tighter. Captain, we should move back to a safer distance. If these silence things are still in the area, Jake held up his hand for quiet. He needed to hear the rest of this message. Our weapons were useless against them. They used some kind of technology that didn't just destroy matter, it erased it from existence. Entire sections of our ship simply stopped being real. People would be standing there one moment, and the next moment it was like they had never existed at all. Lisa worked to enhance the audio quality, as Dr. Collins's voice became fainter. I'm losing the signal strength, Captain. Whatever's keeping that message broadcasting is failing. We managed to escape, but our ship was badly damaged. The silence weapons had affected our hull in ways we didn't understand. Parts of the ship existed in normal space, but other parts seemed to be stuck somewhere else. Somewhere between real and not real. Amy Thompson looked up from her navigation station. Sir, I'm tracking the New Frontier's path after the attack. They've been drifting in space for over 200 years, but their course suggests they were trying to return to Earth. The voice from the speakers grew more desperate. We tried to repair the damage, but the silence weapons had done something to our reality itself. Our engineers began to fade away, becoming less and less solid until they disappeared completely. Our pilots, our scientists, our children. One by one, they all faded into nothing. Ben Carter ran more scans on the strange energy readings around the New Frontier. Captain, I think I understand what happened. The ship is caught in some kind of dimensional flux. Parts of it exist in our reality, but other parts have been shifted into a parallel dimension. Dr. Collins continued his recording. I spent months studying what the silence had done to us. They don't just kill people or destroy ships. They erase civilizations from the fabric of reality itself. Every species that has ever used the ancient relay network has been systematically hunted down and removed from existence. How many species are we talking about? Ryan Hayes asked quietly. The relay network was built by dozens of different civilizations over millions of years. Dr. Collins's voice answered, as if he had heard the question. Each species added their own stations, trying to connect with others across the galaxy. But every single one of them eventually attracted the attention of the silence. Lisa managed to boost the signal again, and Dr. Collins's voice became clearer. I found records in the relay stations. The builders tried to warn us. They left messages saying, do not seek the silence, for the silence seeks all who make themselves known. But we didn't listen. We thought we were smarter than the civilizations that came before us. Jake felt a chill run through his entire body. Lisa, how long ago was this message recorded? Lisa checked her instruments. According to the timestamp, sir, this message was recorded just 3 years ago. The bridge went completely silent. 3 years ago meant that Dr. Collins had survived on that dying ship for nearly 200 years, watching his crew fade away one by one. The worst part, Dr. Collins continued, his voice now barely a whisper, is that we led them back toward Earth. When we activated the relay network, we created a trail that the silence can follow. They don't just hunt the ships that use the network. They track the signals back to their source. Amy Thompson's hands shook as she checked her star charts. Captain, if the silence followed the New Frontier's path back toward Earth, they're already on their way. Jake finished quietly. Dr. Collins's voice grew weaker with each word. I don't know how much time Earth has. The silence moves slowly, methodically. They take their time to completely erase every trace of a civilization. But they will come. They always come. The message began to fade in and out again. Lisa worked desperately to maintain the connection. I have hidden all of our research data in the ship's secondary computers. Everything we learned about the silence, about the relay network, about how their weapons work. If someone finds this message, if someone finds our ship, please use this information to warn Earth. Please tell them that the silence is coming. The transmission cut to static, then went completely quiet. The bridge of the Horizon Dawn remained silent for a long moment as everyone processed what they had just heard. Finally, Jake stood up from his command chair. Ben, I want you to scan that ship from every angle. Find those secondary computers Dr. Collins mentioned. Lisa, see if there are any other messages or data transmissions. What about Earth, sir? Amy asked. Shouldn't we send a warning immediately? Jake looked at the twisted remains of the new frontier floating before them. First, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. If the silence really can track signals across space, then any transmission we send might just help them find Earth faster. Nicole Brooks checked her security systems. Captain, with respect, we might not have a choice. If these aliens are already heading toward Earth, every day we delay could cost millions of lives. Jake nodded grimly. Then we'd better work fast. We have a civilization to save. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the exploration vessel Horizon Dawn and watched the stars through the main screen. The ship had been traveling through deep space for 3 months now, mapping new systems and looking for signs of life. It was quiet work, the kind that made some crew members go crazy from boredom, but Jake loved it. Out here in the black, humanity was still discovering new things every day. The bridge was peaceful until Lisa Martinez, his communications officer, suddenly sat up straight at her station. Her fingers moved quickly across her control panel, and her face showed confusion mixed with excitement. Captain, Lisa called out, her voice cutting through the quiet hum of the ship's systems. I'm picking up something strange. Jake turned his chair toward her. What kind of strange? It's a signal, sir. Human in origin, but very faint. The computer says it's been broadcasting for a long time. Lisa pressed more buttons and static filled the bridge speakers. It's coming from the outer rim, about 2 light years from our current position. Chief Science Officer Ben Carter looked up from his own station. He was a tall man with gray hair who had spent most of his life studying space phenomena. That doesn't make sense. There are no human colonies out that far. We haven't sent any ships to that region for over 50 years. Jake stood up and walked over to Lisa's station. The screen showed wave patterns and signal data that meant nothing to him, but Lisa knew her job better than anyone. Can you clean it up? Make it clearer? Lisa worked for several minutes, adjusting frequencies and filtering out background noise. Slowly, words began to emerge from the static. They were faint and broken, but definitely human. This is New Frontier. Anyone receiving? Please respond, or the bridge went silent. Everyone knew that name. The New Frontier was one of the early colony ships that left Earth during humanity's first push into deep space. It had been launched over 200 years ago with 5,000 colonists aboard, heading for a system called Kepler 442. That ship was destroyed, Ben said quietly. The records show it was lost in a stellar collision 70 years ago. There were no survivors. Navigator Amy Thompson pulled up the ship's database on her screen. She was young but skilled, with a talent for finding things that others missed. The records do say the New Frontier was destroyed, but look at this. She pointed to her screen. The last official contact was 203 years ago. They reported reaching their destination system safely. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Lisa, can you get a fix on the signal's location? Working on it now, sir. Lisa's hands moved over her controls with practiced ease. Got it. The signal is coming from coordinates that match the last known position of the New Frontier, but it's in deep space, not near any planet. Chief Engineer Ryan Hayes spoke up from his station near the back of the bridge. He was a practical man who dealt in facts and numbers. Captain, if that ship really is out there, it would have been drifting in space for over 200 years. The chances of anyone still being alive are basically zero. Maybe, Jake said, but something about this whole situation felt wrong. But that signal is definitely human, and it's broadcasting on emergency frequencies. Amy, set a course for those coordinates. Maximum speed. Amy's fingers danced across her navigation controls. Course laid in, sir. At current speed, we'll reach the signal source in 18 hours. Jake returned to his command chair and activated the ship's internal communications. All hands, this is the captain. We've detected a distress signal from an old Earth colony ship. We're going to investigate. All departments should prepare for possible rescue operations. As the Horizon Dawn changed course and accelerated toward the mysterious signal, Lisa continued working to clean up the transmission. More words emerged from the static, but they were fragmented and hard to understand. Systems failing. Only one left. Must record. They came from nowhere. Ben Carter stood up and walked over to Lisa's station. Those last words, they came from nowhere. That sounds like the ship was attacked. By who? Lisa asked. There are no hostile alien species in this region. Our scouts have been through here dozens of times. Jake watched the stars on the main screen and felt a growing sense of unease. Something was very wrong about this whole situation. The new frontier should have been destroyed decades ago, but here it was, still broadcasting. Someone or something had kept that signal going for all these years. Lisa, keep working on that signal. I want to know everything we can before we get there. Ben, start scanning the area around those coordinates. Look for any unusual energy readings or debris fields. Already on it, Captain, Ben replied, his fingers moving across his science station controls. I'm not picking up much at this distance, but there's definitely something large out there. Something ship-sized. Security Chief Nicole Brooks had been quietly listening to everything from her station. She was a tough woman who had served on frontier ships for 15 years. Captain, if this ship was attacked, we should be ready for anything. Whatever hit the new frontier might still be in the area. Jake nodded. Agreed. Have your security teams ready, but we're going in as a rescue mission first. If there are survivors on that ship, they've been waiting over 200 years for help. The next several hours passed slowly. Lisa continued working on the signal, managing to extract more fragments of words and sounds. Some of it was clearly distress calls, but other parts sounded like someone recording a message. Ben's scan showed that there was indeed a large object at the signal's location, but its energy readings were strange and inconsistent. Amy kept the ship on course, pushing the engines as hard as she safely could. The Horizon Dawn was built for exploration, not speed, but she was doing her best to get them to the new frontier quickly. As they got closer, Ben's scans became more detailed. Captain, I'm reading massive structural damage to whatever's out there. Hull breaches, power fluctuations, and some kind of energy field surrounding the ship that I can't identify. Life signs? Jake asked. Ben shook his head. Nothing I can detect, but the energy field might be interfering with my sensors. Finally, after 18 long hours, the Horizon Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the coordinates. The main screen activated, and everyone on the bridge gasped at what they saw. The new frontier hung in space before them, but it looked nothing like the proud colony ship that had left Earth 2 centuries ago. The massive vessel was twisted and broken, with huge sections torn away or melted into impossible shapes. Strange lights flickered along its hull, and parts of the ship seemed to fade in and out of existence. My God, Lisa whispered. What happened to them? Jake stared at the ruined ship and felt his blood turn cold. Whatever had done this to the new frontier was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. And somewhere in that twisted wreckage, a signal was still broadcasting, still calling for help after all these years.